Welcome to the Middle Room Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how you can make projects with both cutting and engravings in LaserGRBL. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is by far one of the questions that I get asked the most. Now, I have already a whole video covering this topic. However, I feel like in that video, the process was a little bit incomplete. And so I've decided to repropose a new revision of that video. And I'm going to show you the entire process, covering all the aspects from the design software to LaserGRBL. Now, before getting into the process, it is worth understanding a crucial point when you work with laser engravers. And that's also, by the way, another question that I get asked the most, and that is, how do you toggle between cutting and engraving? Now, LaserGRBL, neither other softwares like Lightburn, offers a way for you to toggle between cutting and engraving. In fact, it all depends on the parameters you use for the particular project. So in general, you would be using a higher power and a lower speed if you intend to cut through the material, and a lower power and a higher speed if you intend to engrave. Now, this is a process very simple to tackle in higher hand software like Lightburn. In fact, I highly recommend people including this in their budget if they are trying to get into the hobby, and that's simply because this will make your life much simpler from the start, hassle-free, less frustration, and will make your hobby overall more enjoyable. On the other hand, LaserGRBL is not very well suited for multi-powers or multi-layer projects. However, as always, there is always a workaround, and that's exactly what I'm about to show you today. Now, there are a couple of ways to go about it, and they both depends on the type of files you're trying to import into LaserGRBL, which in turn depends on the software you basically used for your design. Now, one option is if your software works with .svg file, or if anyway it has a way to export in .svg file. And this would be the case, for example, for Inkscape, Corel, Illustrator, and other. A second option, which I'm going to cover at the end of this video, so you can have a look to the timeline below if you want to skip to that option, and that is if your designing software is only capable to export raster type of image, so that is like a JPEG or a PNG. Starting with option 1, where you can get a .svg vector file as an output. Now, if you already know how to prepare your cutting design, then you can skip directly to the LaserGRBL process. And so have a look to the timeline below so that you can skip there. Otherwise, keep on watching. Now, for this demonstration, I'm going to use Inkscape, which is a free vector software, and I'm going to go for a simple keychain. So I would like to turn this simple house design into a keychain. Now, the first step is to create a new design, or like in my case, open an existing design. Now, this design is partially ready for the reason that we still need to prepare things in the way that we can then use them for the cutting. Once your design is ready, I want you to select everything that touches fully or in part your cutting edge. Now, in order for this to be a keychain, I need an outline here to pass all around the entire design. However, I would like it to be also a little bit farther so it looks nice, and so I will need to apply some offset there. And so for this, I'm going to select everything that touches the outside. So the house with the roof, then hold down the shift key, the text, and the smoke. Now, I'm not going to select neither the windows nor the door. Okay, then Control D to duplicate, then zoom out and move this on the other side. Okay, before getting any further, convert everything into paths. So this is, for example, a group. You can see over here what the objects you're currently selected, what they are. So this is a group and this is a text. And so first thing first, I'm going to deal with the text. Go over to path, object to path. Now this is now a group, so right click and click on ungroup. Similarly, go for this ungroup. Okay. Now when you select everything, have a look down, 17 objects of type path. So that's basically now you are good to go. Now, since you wish to apply an outline, an offsetted outline, and you want the offset to be uniform, I suggest you to unite everything from path and union. Now, don't be bothered about the rendering artifacts, just put everything into black and you're basically good to go. Now it is time to move it back into position, perfectly aligned. Make sure you have your snapping option toggle on from the corner there. And then I'm going to make everything transparent, and then holding the shift key and the black, this will only apply the outline. Now we are going for dynamic offset. So you will go over to path and dynamic offset. Now, as you can see, nothing happened. In order to enable that, you have to activate the node editing tool. You will see here you have a grip which can be dragged around. So drag it around until it gets to the point that you like. Okay. And so I think that in my particular case, this is good enough. Okay. Now it is time to clean up our cutting design. As you can see here, we have these small islands that we don't really want to be on the cutting. They make no sense there. So what you can do is first get rid of everything else so that the screen is clean. To do that cleanly, select the outline you just created, then go over to edit, invert selection. You can actually group your previous selection, and then on right click and click on hide. Now this is your design. Now in order to clean that, we need to go into the node editing tool. However, as you can see here, the only thing available is the grip of the dynamic offset, and that is because right now it's a dynamic object. So click on escape, click on it again, and then path, object to path. So we are reconverting it into a path, node editing. And now here you can select, delete, or edit your node. So I'm going to delete everything that is not supposed to be in the cutting. Here, this is not good, so I'm going to correct it by first erasing everything, and then I'm going to manipulate the remaining nodes. I think that something like this is good enough for the purpose. Maybe like this. Similarly here. And once you're done with that, it is time to unhide everything so we see how things look like. So go over to object, unhide whole, and as you can see, we are right on the spot. Now it is time to add the hole for the keychains. Since this is going to be a keychain, so take a circle, hold down the shift key so it's going to be proportional. Now take it and move it where you want this to be, approximately. Now I'm just showing you how to do things so you will be preciser in your design. Now with this done, it is time to give your design a proper dimension. So first up, select everything, and here with units, millimeter or inches, depending on where you're from, lock the aspect ratio so that it scales everything uniformly. And in my case, I want to have this keychain having a width of 35 millimeters. Okay. Now, once that is done, I want you to switch the unit into pixels, and I want you to round up or down the pixel value. So this is more closer to 132 than 133, and this is closer to, oops, you have to actually now toggle this off, and this is instead closer to okay, 164. That looks okay. Now with this, you are going to lose a little bit of dimensional accuracy, but you will understand the reason why we are doing that. And the loss in dimensional accuracy will actually not be visible, and for most projects will not even be influential for your overall results. Okay, with this done, I want to select everything and I want to resize the page to content. To do that, go over to File, Document Properties, and then Resize to Content. Close, and this is pretty much all. Now, with this, basically your outline, your cutting part of the project is ready, as this is the entire file. The only thing I would ask you is later on to duplicate the file so that you can remove everything else. Okay, so now let's export our engraving part. So click on it, go over to the export. If you don't see the tab here, go over to File and click on Export, and as you can see, this is the same tab, flashing. Then you want to export the entire page, but you want to only export the selected objects. And as for the size, you want to give the same pixel size we gave it earlier. Now, it's automatically taken by the software, 132/164. And before exporting, you want to make sure that you have a good quality. And so that is at least 300 dpi. Otherwise, you will have a pixelated image, which will also result in a pixelated engraving. And so that is not something that you want. So in my case, I want 3 times, maybe 4 times this. So 132 times 4, it's 4528. Okay, that's automatically scaling that accordingly. And now you can save it. So give it a name and save it on the location you want. So I'm going to call this engraving. Okay. And that is basically done. Now I want to get rid of everything else except for the outline, and then click on Save. So this is going to be your cutting part. Now let's jump right into LaserGRBL and let's see how to work from there. Okay, in LaserGRBL, we are going to import the files in the order we want them to be processed by our machine. In general, you will want to engrave first and cut later on for obvious reasons. So we are going to first import the engraving part. And so File, Open, and I'm going for the engraving part. Click on Open. In the Import Raster image window, you can manipulate your image. I'm not going to explain that. If you need help with it, I suggest you to have a look on the video description below, as I have already a video tutorial covering that. Now in this particular case, I want you to go for a line-to-line tracing. So basically you want to engrave this, and then as a quality 10 lines per millimeter, it's a decent quality for most laser engravers. Then click on Next. Now in the target image window, you will set your speed, your power mode, your power, that's up to you. Then the important part here is the sizing and the position. So click on Auto Size and then EXIF to pull in the data from your design. And then if you see here some offset, I want you to click this to erase that offset, and then click on Create. So this is the first part. Now let's go for the cutting part. So File, now click Append. This is going to open a file on top of the existing one. So Append, and we are going to click the SVG file. Click on Open. Now here you're only prompted to provide your cutting parameters. So I'm going to go for 950 here for 95% and click on Create. And as you can see, our two files are perfectly aligned and centered. Now, if you see some artifacts or some misalignment, it is worth checking again the values and making sure that the pixel values were correctly. The other thing you can check is if the sizes, when you basically open your PNG file, if this dimension here that you are pulling in from the metadata of the file correspond to the dimension in Inkscape or in your... Now I'm going to turn on the machine so we can launch this project. Alright, so the machine is powered on. Let's connect it. Okay. Now I'm going to first home the machine. Now you will want to jog around so that you are where you want the project to be engraved and cut. Let me double check from closer up. I need to jog a little bit more. Okay, once you are happy with the position, don't forget to set your custom origin. And now we can frame and see if we are in the area where we want to be. Alright, I turned on my extractor. Now I think we are good to go, and so I'm going for engraving. Alright, so as you can see, the project came out as we wanted to, as expected. Maybe I had to work a little bit better in the parameters I gave, but that's just for test, and I think the test was successful. Now, if you're using Air Assist, then there will be few more steps to go, and that is from the operational standpoint. There are a few options. One is, and this is the simplest one, to operate Air Assist manually. You will wait for one of the parts of your project to finish, for example the engraving, which normally does not require air, and then you toggle on or you increase the flow rate of your air pump once you're ready for the cutting, and that's exactly what I did in this particular test. Alternatively, if your machine has an automatic Air Assist, so you can control it through the app, I can suggest you to go part by part individually, and between the parts then you will need to come over to the GRBL settings, over to the G code, and then to enable or disable this M8. Right now is commented out, that means it's not enabled, but if I uncomment that, then it's actually enabled, and M9 to close. Okay, so again I will enable that, and so that's how you can go about it. Now another way, which is a little bit harder, would be to save your file, which is ready now here, as a G code. So save as, export the G code, and then you can open your G code file with the notepad. So as you can see over here, this is how the file looks like, and here you have to search for the two parts. So as you can see over here, I have an M4 set. So here I know that it's starting my engraving part because that's the mode I selected. Then you will basically need to go down, and this can be very long depending on the type of project you do. Also go for Control F to find, so M4. And this is actually very good because M4 is good for engraving and M3 is good for cutting, so that would be a good way to distinguish the two blocks. Alright, let me now show you how you can go around the same problem but without a software that can output an SVG file, and so we are going to see how to work this out having only raster file of images. So let me minimize this one. Now back in Inkscape. Now for that to work, we already have the engraving part and is already in a PNG file format. So here all you will need to do is to basically select also your outline, as you can see over here. Okay, this is everything. And then give it the exact same pixel sizes so that it has the same DPI. And now you can give it a name. So let's call this cutting. Okay, now back in LaserGRBL. So again, let's first open the engraving file. So open, that's actually unchanged. So open again. Here, line-to-line tracing, quality 10, it's okay. So give it on next. Give your parameters, again, auto size, EXIF, and create. Okay, then file, append, and here we are going to append the outline instead. Click on open. Now in the import raster image window, I want you to select the center line. For obvious reason, you can see that this is tracing the center. Then you have to use these threshold sliders so that you can try to optimize the center line. Unfortunately, I found, let me enlarge this one, I found that oftentimes you have these artifacts and there is not a real good way to get rid of it. Something that you could be doing eventually, because it works a little bit better, is to do vectorized and then to use this vector. Just bear in mind that this will apply the cutting twice, however is coming cleaner, so you might cope with that. You will have double the cutting with this strip that is pointless, but that's the way to get it cleaner. Anyway, I will stick with centerline for now, and so I'll click on next, and now again here give your power parameters, auto size, EXIF, and create. And as you can see, we are exactly at the same point like before. Unfortunately, as I said, this is going to be not precise. As you can see here, this is not even closed. Here we get some cutting line that gets into the design, so this will be permanent in our keychain. Some will lead out, so we are not bothered by that. It will basically remain on the stock material, so we don't care. But this is the way to go about it. So again, LaserGRBL, it is not best at this. You can definitely go around it following my procedure, but there is always room for mistakes, and oftentimes you don't get out what you'd expect. Alright, this is pretty much all. Now, I hope you found this video informative. I hope it's going to help you out create some great projects. If you liked it, click the thumbs up button below. If you have any comment, leave them in the comment section below. And do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one. Ciao for now!